In this video, you're going to learn how to make a bar timer just like this to display time or fuel or anything else that you might want to create inside of a Flowlab game. So to build this, we first need to create an object to contain the program that will do this. So everything in this is object-oriented programming, so things have to have objects to be connected to, and each object can have its own programming. I'm going to name this thing my timer manager. And I'm going to make it look like I know what it is. So if I see it and I don't know what it is, that's kind of not helpful in designing, and I get confused. So I want to make sure that I know what it is when I see it, so I don't have any weird questions about what is that thing floating right there. I don't know what it is. So we build these things. I'm just going to give it a big capital T. That's good enough. This is sans serif. Serif would have these little droopy parts. That's called serif or Roman type. And I'm going to go ahead and use sans serif or Gothic type. Alright, so there's this. And we're now going to attach some behaviors to it. So my behaviors, the goal of these behaviors is to do math, essentially. So the piece that we're going to use is called a, sorry, not a collision. Delete that. We're going to use components. And the component we're going to use two clocks. So if I scroll to the bottom here and get two clocks, one of them is going to get the current time, and the other one is going to get like what time it was when we started. Now the stamp part of this, as you may have discovered, exports a value of the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970, which is just kind of random, but it's a big number. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a number to collect that. So if I go to my logic and math section and choose a number, we're going to name or label this as start time. And it's going to be 0 when it starts. It'll change as we go. And then we're going to get another number that is going to be current time. Alright, so that changes constantly. This one will be static. This one will be dynamic or changing as we go. So each of these needs to be triggered to make it work. So let's do these one at a time and test as we go. So this one will be triggered once, and that is when it starts. So we start the timer once. And we connect those two. Sure, just trying to make this, I'm trying to work with the space I have, which is not that much. It's going to get big, kind of large and branchy, but it makes sense once you do the pieces individually. So we're going to do a stamp here, and we do the set. That will set the value inside here. So if I run this, I see a number. So when we get this, we're going to change this to, now we're going to have another trigger, which is going to be an always. Now the always is constantly running 30 times per second to find out how long has it been since January 1st, 1970. So we take the stamp again, run it together, and this one will be dynamic. So you see this number counting up 1 second at a time as we go forward. And so there's the piece that's going to work that out. The next thing that we need to do is do the math for these parts. So I'm going to stop running, and I'm going to make room for an expression. So here's my expression. And the expression is going to make one of these A and one of them B. Now, I could take this, let's see, if I run this, by the way, if I try to set this up and say B minus A, because we're going to get the current time minus the start time, which will give us how much time it's been since we started. Now, if I run this, you'll see that nothing happens. If we just do an output to this, we take a number and attach the number to there, and we'll call this elapsed time. In an actual program, if you're programming this in JavaScript, which you could, these would be variables. Okay, so variables like X or Y in algebra, in this case, they hold values that do something. So I'm going to send this to the setter here. And so what this does is nothing. You're like, okay, it's doing the math, but it's not doing the math. There's an eval input on here that makes it work. And in addition to that, the numbers don't flow through unless you have the getters set up. So when I do this once, just for visual, so well, you could drag the once to the getter there and it'll output it, but just for simplicity so you can see the connections better, I'm going to make it another once, because once is always the same place and time. So, oops, I think it deleted something. Let's get that clock back. That's the thing with this, there's no control Z, there's no undo. So let's get this in place. Somehow I deleted something. Alright, the stamp goes to the set, and the out goes to the get. Alright, sorry about that. And the once goes to the get also. So it's going to send the number out to the expression. So we can test that, and we can see it sends it out, and we can see all the synapses popping. So similarly, I'm going to take another always. And again, you could use the same always and connect it. And the only reason I'm doing separate ones is because I want you to see what's doing. So always is always the same. It's 30 times a second. And there's my eval. And so now that should, oops, we're also going to do that out here to send this getter. So the get connection sends a value through to the out. So now we can see this number counting. So that's how long it's been since the whole thing started. Now we're going to add some other stuff to this to make it work. So what I'm going to grab is I want to grab a GUI item. GUI is a bar, or it stands for Graphic User Interface. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to give this some values so I can see it. I'll set the frame to like orange or something. I got to click in here to find the right values and colors I want. So that looks pretty good. And then the fill space I'm going to make yellow, because I can. You can make whatever colors you want as long as it's visible. So if I go OK and say OK here, you'll see there's the bar. And I can actually move that by dragging and dropping it. So you can put that any place you want by dragging and dropping it. Edit, behaviors, back in here. And it is important to consider the values it's containing. So this is maximum value. Current value is set to this. So the value it gets input on this input node is the current value, and the max value is here. So I might want to start this at 100% as the max value, and the current value I'm just going to set to 50. So we're going to do it in percents, okay? And the reason percents is because that way you can change the level duration each time. So we do need another number. So we're going to get a number called level duration. And again, you could change this throughout subsequent levels, but we don't have to do that right now. So this will be level duration. And I'm going to set the value to 60 or 1 minute. This is in seconds. And actually, it doesn't matter what the number is, but the units we're expressing are seconds. So you can put all kinds of things in there, regardless of what units you're working with. So what I'll next do is I'm going to take this expression and I'm going to send that through the getter. And we're going to be connecting this to another expression. So my next expression goes here. And this one will be also a minus b. Actually, we're going to do some math with this that's different. So if I run this to there, so now I've got an a and a b. The elapsed time goes to the b. And every time that elapses, we're also going to evaluate it. So we can connect different things to the evaluation. So eval is what triggers the math to happen. And the math we're going to run in here, there's a few pieces to this. We can actually add another number of inputs on this. Rather than inputs, we'd actually want to use, there we go. So what I want to have is a -1 on here, because we're going to come up with a value as we subtract this. We're going to come up with the time left. So it's going to be the quantity b minus a, and then we're going to multiply that, I think, by the c. So when that number comes out, we want to see what it is. So for that purpose, we're going to get another number, and this is our time left, time remaining. And so as this goes out, it's going to go to the set, and let's see what that does. So as it's counting, the numbers are going through, but you can see this lapse time is not going through. The input's not happening. And the reason is I forgot to add the getter here. So the get here comes from the same place as the out. So it's setting and getting at the same time. Again, the set sets the value of what's contained in here, and the get sends it out through. Okay, so it's actually getting out the other side. So let's do this. And now I can see the numbers counting down. So now I've got a timer that is actually working. Okay, so we're almost there. So now we've got the time left, and the last thing that we want to do is we can do some more math, I guess, because this way we'll have a number to work with. So we'll do a number here, I think. Let's see, that's actually going to be another expression. And the expression we're trying to create is the value of the level duration divided into how much time is left. So if I take the time left, if I want to send the value out, I have to use the getter. So I'm connecting the get. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the level duration and send that to the A here. All right, and then we're going to take this value and send it to the B. Now, why am I doing this? The reason I'm doing this is I want to come up with a percent that's going to feed our bar. Because as you may recall, we did this in 100% value or 100 units, and we're going to use that as a percent to set the value of the bar. And that way, if each level has its own duration, you can set this and have it changeable. So a little bit of math. So I open this up, and it's going to be the B divided by the A, which is going to give us a percent. B divided by A. And we need to set that to evaluate every time. And I probably should send that out to a number just so I can see it to test it. You can disconnect the number if you want to later. So run this. And as you can see, I made a mistake somehow. So my value is B divided by A. So it's easy to forget that a percent must be multiplied by 100 to get the value. So it's actually giving me a percent here, but all I need to do is adjust that value. So as I take this expression, I want to multiply that by 100. So I can actually just type in times 100. You could make a separate input for this and make 100, but it's just as easy to do it this way. So now that should give me the percentage. And I can actually open this up and choose rounding to the nearest integer. And so now it's going to give me this value here. So then I'm going to put this out to my bar, and the bar should show me, let's see if I reset this, make sure the bar starts, current value is 100, and so now when we run it, we should see the bar reducing as we go. Now the reason it's not is because the getter is not attached. So if I attach the getter now, so the getter has to be connected there to make it work. So the get is going to send the value out, the set just sets the value in here, but the getter will send it all the way through. That's how you build the timer bar. Let me know if you have questions. Always ask if you have questions.